Hello and welcome to back to another episode of the Purple Rain Report. So we got a jam-packed episode for you guys today. A lot has happened since the last time I recorded a podcast. We're just going to start off in chronological order. Um, last Monday we talked about the Michael Brockers thing, but then I also wanted to talk about the release of James Hurst, veteran, a swing tackle slash guard for the Ravens, been part of the team since 2014, making the team as an undrafted rookie out of UNC Chapel Hill. Started 44 games in his career for the Ravens at both guard positions, right tackle and left tackle. And he's been one of the key cogs in the Ravens offensive line. He kind of plug and play everywhere, played every position except for center. He was slated to be suspended for the first 4 games of this season, and the Ravens saved about $2 million in cap space by cutting him. It's a bit of a I guess it's not really a bit of a weird move considering that he's not gonna be available for the first 4 games anyways. You kind of want to save cap space for the moves that they've been making. They've been really busy, as well as like possibly. I mean, they like I said, James Harris is one of the undrafted offensive linemen. You could probably find another one of those guys in this year's draft. They found one following last year's draft, Patrick McCary, who ended up starting some games for at center after Matt Skura went down. Another undrafted free agent out of Duke. So it'll be interesting to see how the Ravens address the depth on our offensive line and find a new starting right guard. Like the presumptive guy right now is Ben Powers, second year guy out of Oklahoma. But you never really know with the Ravens sometimes. They haven't really invested a high round draft pick and in offensive lineman since I believe 2012 when they took KO in the second round. So like I say, like we mentioned, KO is possible option for a guy to return, or they might use one of their first 3 picks. They got 2 picks in the first 3 rounds. 3 picks in the first 2 rounds. So you never know. They might use a high round pick on an interior offensive lineman guy with probably some position versatility, because as we all know, versatility is key among Ravens offensive linemen. You're gonna need to learn at least 2 positions, if not 3. You're gonna need to be able to learn. If you're a tackle, you gotta be able to play both left and right. If you're a guard, you gotta be able to play left and right, and play center if need be. Only thing Marciano didn't do in his time with the Ravens was play center, but he played left guard, right guard, left tackle, right tackle. His rookie year, he started some games for Jonathan Ogden when he was started the year on PUP. So, like I said, Ravens do value versatility among the offensive linemen. And now that James Harris is no longer in the picture, Marciano is retired. It's probably one of the positions they might address prior to or following the draft, if as well as inside the draft. I mean, they're guaranteed to draft at least one offensive lineman, if not more. Eric Acosta said in an interview with the team media a few weeks back. On Tuesday, the Ravens met. They bolstered the defensive line even more by re-signing some guys that came in last season to help bolster the unit and make them one of the top units last season. And defensive tackle Justin Ellis and defensive end Jihad Ward. Ward especially was a really effective and productive in some of the team's sub packages and pressure packages. The defensive coordinator Don Week Martindale enjoys those kind of versatile defensive end slash outside linebacker guys that can rush from inside and outside, and Jihad Ward fits the profile to a T. There were plenty of times where he was, the base nose tackle in the sub packages whenever they went one of the nickel or dime or quarter packages. He was the guy that was rushing from either the interior, or a lot of times he sometimes lined up over the center, over the guard, and he got it done. He didn't have the sack numbers, only 1 sack last year, but he was very effective in getting pressure on quarterbacks, quarterback hurries, pressures, and a couple quarterback hits as well. Justin Ellis, another guy that they added early on in the season as part of that mid-season defensive turnaround that Eric Acosta manufactured, which was really a thing of beauty. But Justin Ellis is one of those guys that kind of came in and helped bolster the defensive line behind starter Brandon Williams and Michael Pierce. Even though Michael Brockers, the newest Raven, is gonna help. It's gonna be the starter. A guy like Justin Ellis can help kind of give him a breath, maybe even sub out for Brandon Williams, because he's one of those guys that you can put at possibly defensive end as a 5 technique and inside 3 technique. Even though he probably most succeed at a 3 technique, but what the guy like Jihad Ward, you can rush inside and outside. So those are the 2 moves that one of the a few moves they made on Wednesday. Another move they made on Tuesday was the release of defensive back Brandon Carr. I say defensive back because he plays both corner and safety. I mean, he's one of the most versatile and durable defenders and really players in the league in general, and like the 112 consecutive starts, and he's like the NFL's Iron Man on defense. Philip Rivers is Iron Man on offense, and Brandon Carr is Iron Man on defense. Never missed a start in his career, and I know he'll be a valuable member for somebody else, another team elsewhere, and he'll continue his playing career, whether it's at safety or at corner. I believe Brandon Carr can get it done. And I just, I really appreciate all the Brandon Carr has kind of done for this team and done for the community in Baltimore. Walter Payton, Man of the Year nominee last year, and it's just been one of those mainstays and staples in the Ravens locker room as far as a leadership standpoint, especially in the defensive back room. And I know they still got veterans like Earl Thomas back there, but losing a guy like Brandon Carr and Tony Jefferson, who they released earlier this offseason, and potentially Jimmy Smith, that's a lot of veteran leadership lost out of that secondary. But having guys like Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, who's been around the league for a few years. Marcus Peters on a second contract. Marlon Humphrey getting ready to get a second contract here in the next year or two. Both of those guys, I believe, will step up in that leadership role. They've already kind of took strides towards that last year. But the Ravens are talking about probably trying to they were interested in bringing back Jimmy Smith. So if he's willing to come back to the team on a reduced salary, haven't heard much buzz about him. On the free agency front, he's still out there. I mean, nobody can take any visits right now because of the the coronavirus pandemic. So, but I haven't heard anything about him, even being in contact with other teams or other teams being interested in calling his phone. I'm pretty sure the Jets might, call him, given that Joe Douglas, former Ravens executive and Eagles executive, and they're in the need for a veteran cornerback. I wouldn't be surprised if they give his phone a ring. But as of right now, there's been no news on the Jimmy Smith front. Um, yeah, I guess the Earl Thomas would kind of be the most seasoned guy in that back end, but having young guys like Chuck Clark and Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters, like I said, they're not really guys who kind of need that veteran leadership, like, oh, help us come along, because they're already there, they're already playing entering their primes and playing at the highest level, so it's not like they need time to develop or kind of veteran to kind of hold their hand and show them how it's supposed to be done at the NFL level, because they already know how to do it. So, like I said, that's still the leadership piece. What I've appreciated about the Ravens this off season is whenever they lost a leader, they gained a leader. You lose a guy like Marshall Yonda to retirement, and less than a week later, you trade for a guy Calais Campbell, who's not just one of the better defensive players in the league, but is also one of the most well-respected men in the league, both on and off the field, and one of the most one of the best leaders of men in the league. Everywhere he's been, Arizona, Jacksonville, he's been the guy that those people turn to. Especially in Jacksonville, he was the guy leading those Duval chants, and he was the guy that people turn to in the locker room. He was everybody's big brother, both literally and figuratively. He's kind of that big brother. Something about the University of Miami guys, like the Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, to kind of just take guys underneath their wing and show them how it's supposed to be done at the next level. And I think that when the Ravens, like they said, they understand and they value leadership, and every move they've made this offseason has been now to hold on to some of their best, to some of their leaders the best they can, but also if they were to let go of one, bring in another one. Like I said, I think signing, trading for a guy like Calais Campbell, you get like that's like two leaders, right there. I mean, not just because he's a big dude, because that's how impactful a personality like his is in every locker room he's been in. He's had nothing but his former teammates have had nothing but glowing things to say. I know when he was traded, I mean, people in Jacksonville, like his teammates were freaking out. Leonard Fournette, DJ Chark, even Jalen Ramsey, a former teammate of his in Jacksonville, couldn't believe it. Yannick Ngakoue speaking his piece on the matter, and it just goes to show you the kind of leader that Calais Campbell is, and the kind of leader that the Ravens are getting in him. On Wednesday, they extended Pro Bowl punter Sam Koch for 2 more years. That means the Ravens are going to have. I don't even want to say arguably the best, because I feel like he is the best. Not just because my Ravens bias, but if you kind of look at the stretch of career that Sam Koch has had, and the kind of impact he has had on the punting game, and Justin Tucker's success as a kicker as well. I mean, being a holder, and being a holder doesn't sound like like a hard job, but sometimes the conditions can be very, very difficult. You got to handle a wet ball. You got to be able to get the laces away from the kicker's foot and all those kind of things. But then not even like that part aside, just the fact that the master and technician he is at his own craft is what's been amazing. He's been doing it since I believe like 20 like 20 like 2007 or something like that. He's been one of those mainstays. He's one of the last remaining guys from from the Ravens Super Bowl team in 2012, and it's just his bag of punts, man. It's like a golfer who has, like, a bunch of different clubs. I mean, this dude has, like, I think I remember one time reading, and he had like 65 different punts that he uses, that, in order to flip the field or down teams inside the 20, or give his coverage unit more time to get to the punt returner, and not be able to, negate long returns before they can even get started. And he's been such a weapon for the Ravens, and another one of those leaders. Like you said, some leaders are willing to let go, but others, like Sam Koch, he's that leader in the special teams room. There's a little bit of uncertainty around Anthony Levine coming back this year, but having a guy like Sam Koch and Justin Tucker, and keeping the Wolfpack, the Wolfpack, Sam Koch, Morgan Cox, and Justin Tucker, having the Wolfpack together for at least another 2 more years is going to be a big thing for the Ravens special teams unit. Losing Jerry Rosberg last year, and his successor coming up. The Ravens special teams kind of struggled a bit at times last season, but not the Wolfpack. Those guys were on point. Justin Tucker made another Pro Bowl this year. Sam Koch should have went to a Pro Bowl this year. Because of the Ravens' success, incredible success on offense, he hasn't been as utilized as much as he has been in years past. I mean, he's probably like the least utilized punter in the league last year. But when he is called upon, he does his job and does it well. Continuously, routinely pinning teams back inside their own 20, inside their own 10. He's been plenty. I think there was a time he almost had a perfect punt. I think it was either last year or the year before, and somebody came and ruined it. But he's such an integral part of what the team does on special teams, and the part of the team overall. Like I said, he's one of the core leaders. I think he's part of that leadership council that the head coach John Harbaugh consults, throughout the season. So I'm extremely glad to see that the Ravens are, keeping their key guys, not just the key guys that, are just for the sake of keeping them, but they're still producing at a high level. Like I said, even though he's not going to be utilized as much as he has been in years past, he's still one of the most dangerous weapons in that facet of the game. Special teams, punters are people too, and when you get one of the best of them, you got one of the best in the league, you want to hold on to him. I'm no doubt the Ravens are gonna, sign a guy down after free agency and develop him, and possibly trade him, flip him for a draft pick like they did Corey Vedvik last season. But like I said, Sam Koch, Jess Tucker, Morgan Cox aren't going nowhere, and I'm just glad to have the Wolfpack back again for the next 2 years, and possibly even beyond. Uh, then on flipping, going, moving forward to Friday. The Ravens made a bit of a surprise trade. I mean, I can see, like, why moving on from Chris Wormley, but trading Chris Wormley and his 2021 seventh round pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers, of all people, for a 2021 fifth round pick was a little, perplexing to me. Just like, you usually don't see those interdivision trades. And I just thought that was a little weird that you trade one of your own assets to the division rival. Now, Chris Wormley hasn't had the productive career that, most people envisioned when the Ravens took him in 2016 out of Michigan in the third round. So doesn't even have 10 sacks in his career combined, but he's entering the final year of his contract. That's a pretty decent return. Getting a fifth round pick in next year's draft that you possibly use to move in this year's draft. If need be. And he's on the final year of his rookie deal, and like I said, flipping him in the seventh in order for a fifth is, pretty fair trade if you ask me. But I think the Ravens did that in mind, knowing that, okay, we're not really scared that this one's going to come back to bite us. The dude hasn't really developed into the kind of dominant five technique that we envisioned when we drafted him. So Kat said, moving on. It's just weird to see, Ravens and Steelers involved in a trade, not just in a bout on the field. I thought that was a little weird. But I do wish Chris Wormley the best. Just not when he plays the Ravens 2 times a year. And hopefully he does find his footing. Like, you kind of his his playing time was probably gonna, was gonna see a lot, steeper decline anyways heading into 2020 with the additions of Calais Campbell, who rarely ever comes off the field, and Michael Brocker. So I mean, those are two guys, and then you resign Jihad Ward. Those are two guys and three guys really that you can move around and using that five technique spot that Chris Wormley predominantly plays. So he's probably going to be. You probably viewed him as an expendable asset at this point in his career, and like I said, dumping him on a division rival dumping an underwhelming draft pick on a division rival the final year of the rookie deal does not, I mean, it's not going to keep you up at night thinking, oh no, Chris Wormley's going to come back to bite us. I mean, Chris Wormley couldn't really bite anybody else when he was with us. So, I mean, he's a solid dude. I'm not saying he's a bum by any means, but like I said, he wasn't, when you draft a guy that high in the third round, you expect him to kind of be more of a consistent player and regular starter for you. And he did start some games for the Ravens, but he wasn't that dominant force that that they envisioned he would be coming out of Michigan in 2016. But some more Ravens related news. Matt Judon's been kind of surfacing trade rumors. The Seahawks reportedly reached out for the Ravens about acquiring their Pro Bowl pass rusher. And probably won't be the first. I mean, it's probably not the first, and probably won't be the last we hear about Judon possibly getting traded. And the Ravens did place a franchise tag on him earlier this month, and he's been mentioned as a prime franchise tag candidate. They even wrote about it for MySportsVote.com. Check us out on the app or on our website. That's MySportsVote. And you can look at the NFL section, and you can find it over there. I write plenty for them, sometimes about the Ravens, sometimes about other teams around the league. But go check us out there. But as far as the Judon trade front, I don't think the Ravens should move on from Judon. I mean, if you are able to flip him for an asset, I mean, how much of an asset is another second round pick in this year's draft or next year's draft going to be compared to a proven pass rusher? Not even just I want to call him edge defender because he's one of the more complete outside linebackers in the league. I mean, the guy that's coming up for his career year as far as sacks, 9.5 sacks, Pro Bowler. But what's even more important and more, the reason I believe the Ravens shouldn't move on from Judon is the fact that he's one of the most complete linebackers. He's just as good defending the run and setting an edge as he is getting after the passer. I mean, there are plenty of times this season where he was the only guy that was really shedding the edge. He learned from the best, and Terrell Suggs. So there's plenty of times like the Ravens, the opposing teams when they were getting Ravens on outside zone runs and stuff like that, they would run to Jalen Ferguson's side, not necessarily to Matt Judon's side because they know he had that side on lock. So I think keeping a guy like Matt Judon and pairing him with a guy like Calais Campbell and Brockers and the rest of the bunch will go a long way and making sure that the Ravens defense and that defensive line especially that becomes one of the best units in the league, one of the deepest units in the league, one of the most versatile units in the league. Because I said Matt Judon is one of those guys that you can come around on stunts and stuff like that too, and kind of get some push from the interior as well as from the outside. And he's real dominant against all types of offensive tackles. He can beat him off the edge with speed, and he got some nice strength to him too. So I think keeping a guy like Matt Judon is worth more. Keeping him is worth more than flipping him for an asset. So I think that they won't move on from him. But like I said, this won't be the last we hear about the Matt Judon getting traded for somebody inquiring about him. Pass rushers are a premium. I mean, we've seen what the kind of deals that even underwhelming pass rushers like guys like Leonard Floyd have signed a $11 million deal or $10 million deal with the Rams. After getting cut, so that the Bears could sign Robert Quinn. Guys like Dante Fowler getting 3-year, $48 million deals, and he really only had one big year of sack production, which came in his last year under the franchise tag with the Rams. He recorded 11.5 sacks, but like I said, pass rushers are at a premium, both at the interior and off the edge. And a guy like Matt Judon would command top dollar. I'm not sure if the Ravens are going to pay him top dollar. I'm not sure if Judon necessarily wants top dollar. I think he even came out and said it. He loves it in Baltimore. We love him in Baltimore, and I think it's a match made in heaven. And if I'm not saying take a hometown discount, but like you don't have to be top dollar in order to be considered one of the best. There are plenty of guys out there that are getting paid top dollar that aren't performing at the best. And, a guy comes to mind right now is, DeMarcus Lawrence. Like he paid Kyle West played him all that money, and he really didn't live up to expectations. You got outproduced by Robert Quinn. And he was quietly one of the best defensive player on that team last year, outside of possibly even Byron Jones. So like I said, just because a guy makes top money doesn't mean he's going to be necessarily worth it. You see guys like Jadeveon Clowney, who the Seahawks are wanting to resign, but like I said, they're having trouble with that because he wants top money, but he hasn't had top production in his career. He's been rumored to the Ravens, but as I'm pretty sure that the ship has sailed considering the moves they've made, getting a guy like Campbell and Brockers and franchise tagging Judon. So I'm glad the Ravens are out of the Davion Clowney sweepstakes because I mean, don't get me wrong, the dude's an amazing talent, but like I said, he struggles with consistency and he struggles with staying healthy. So that's just something that the Ravens kind of don't want in their on defense or offense or really any part of any facet of their team. They want guys that can be able to count on down in, down out, to not just produce but also be available. And then Jadeveon just hadn't had hasn't had the best luck with that, and there's always been questions about his his character, his drive, and and I just that doesn't scream play like a Raven to me in the way that Calais Campbell did. Anything you've read or heard about Calais Campbell, I mean, this guy was like it's almost like he was born to play with the Ravens, play for the Ravens. I mean, his play on the field, his play off the field, and in the community in the locker room, it just exemplifies and screams, I'm a Raven. So I believe that acquiring a guy like Campbell, who's been more productive than a guy like Jadeveon Clowney over the last few seasons, really since Clowney's been in the league, will go a long way, and helping the Ravens defense reach new heights more so than a guy like Jadeveon Clowney would. But all that being said, I think Matt Judon does stay with the Ravens for at least the 2020 season, and we'll see what happens after this season if they don't reach a long-term extension before the July 15th deadline. Um, we're gonna save the other possible moves the Ravens might make before the draft for another podcast. To close this one out, I kind of wanted to talk about some not necessarily Ravens related things, but kind of just like guys that former Ravens that have signed elsewhere. We're going to start with some guys that were on last year's team that signed elsewhere. Michael Pierce. I mean, the writing was kind of on the wall for Pierce at the end of the season. He kind of knew he wasn't coming back, and he kind of had a growing sense. He kind of said his goodbyes to people and told the media he appreciates all of them. And the Ravens were pretty sure he was going to price himself out of Baltimore. They've had a luxury of having him and Brandon Williams clogging up the middle for the past 3-4 years. Well, since 2016, 16, 17, 18. So yeah, for the past 4 years. But you kind of Texas writing's kind of on the wall. You don't want to pay two premier run stuffers, in the middle like that, top dollar. You already got Brandon Williams under contract, and then you get a guy instead like Michael Brockers who can not just stuff the run as one of the better run blocking defensive tackles in the league, but also gives you a lot more pass rush ability than a guy like Michael Pierce showed throughout his career. But the juggernaut will be running rampant up in Minnesota and Mankato for the Minnesota Vikings. He signed a 3-year deal with $27 million with them. He's going to be replacing recently released Pro Bowler Linval Joseph, who's now with the Chargers. I think it's an upgrade for the. I think Michael Pierce is going to be an upgrade for the Vikings than a guy like Linval Joseph was. Is going to allow guys like and Eric Kendricks a lot of room to kind of fly around by clogging up and attracting double and sometimes triple teams. And he did show some promise of pass rush ability, pushing the pocket at times during his career and kind of heated up over the final stretch. Him and Brandon Williams kind of ramped up their pass rush production second half of last season. So I think the Minnesota Vikings are getting a steal. Not necessarily steal because they're paying them big money, but they're getting their money's worth. And a guy like Michael Pierce, he will be missed. Like I said, I did enjoy watching him. I remember the game that Michael Pierce really kind of made the team was the New Orleans Saints game and in the fourth preseason game. I think it's the 2016 season when he had like the sack he had a sack, a strip sack and a touchdown in that final game, and then he kind of just made the team in that final game alone. The Ravens were kind of stacked at defensive tackle that year, but he made such a great impression on the team and he was able to sign elsewhere. And I think um, his signing, I'm not sure if that's going to affect the compensatory pick formula, because since the Ravens did sign Michael Brockers, and how that's going to affect that. Seeing if for another Ravens, possibly Jimmy Smith. If Jimmy Smith does sign elsewhere, it's a significant enough deal. The Ravens probably still could get a compensatory pick next year for Michael Pierce thing if the Jimmy Smith signing cancels out the Michael Brocker signing. But the Ravens only unrestricted free agent the Ravens have signed this offseason has been Michael Brockers, and the big name free agent that they lost was Michael Pierce. So if Jimmy Smith does leave elsewhere for greener pastures and signs a significant enough deal and plays because also would package into the compensatory pick formula, it's not just the amount of that the person signed for elsewhere. It's also if they have playing time, did they make a Pro Bowl, did they do this? If the person that you lost kind of outperformed his contract or whatever, you still get compensation. You could be anywhere from a third round pick to a seventh round pick. And I think if a guy like Jimmy Smith, who I know can be productive if when healthy, the key word is when healthy, then I think that the Ravens could get a compensatory pick this time next year. Won't be as much as they've gotten in recent years. Like after losing a guy like C.J. Mosley, Darius Smith, Terrell Suggs all in one off season. But I do think that they might be able to salvage another comp pick if a guy like Jimmy Smith were to sign a significant enough deal, play to a high level elsewhere. Another guy, kind of underrated, our guy that got signed on the same day as Michael Pierce on last Wednesday was receiver Seth Roberts. Seth Roberts was he had a decent year in Baltimore. They didn't put up gaudy numbers, but he was a nice reliable target for Lamar Jackson. I think he hit kind of like one or two touchdowns for Lamar, in their offense, and he was like Willie Snead B. The Willie Snead was like slot receiver A, and Seth Roberts was slot receiver B, and he was that guy that like Lamar, another one of those veteran guys that Lamar can rely on, and especially with the young receiver core, you guys like Marquise Brown and Miles Boykin and Jaleel Scott, having a veteran presence like Seth Roberts, who signed a 1 year deal with the Ravens last offseason after the second wave, after the third wave of free agency, one of those post June guys, I think will go a long way, and kind of like I think we'll help do the same thing for the Ravens, for the Panthers that he helped do with the Ravens. Like I said, mentor those young guys, be a reliable target for Teddy Bridgewater in the slot. I know they have DJ Moore down there in Carolina and Curtis Samuel. I think adding a guy like a Seth Roberts could help a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, who likes throwing to the slot receivers, and it's really about that. He's really one of those highly efficient quarterbacks, and the one way to keep that passer rating, that completion percentage up, is hitting your guy in the slot. And Seth Roberts can definitely do that, dating back to his days with the Oakland Raiders, well, now Las Vegas Raiders, but he's one of the better slot receivers in the league. Signed a 1 year deal for with the Panthers, so I'm not sure if I'm not. There's no guarantee he's going to make the team, let alone play. Sign a. I'm not the details of his deal the weren't released, so I'm not sure if he'll net a comp pick. But depending on how much playing time he gets and how much of impact he has in the offense, who knows? In that Joe Brady Matt Rule offense, they might just be five wide all the time and spread it out. And I think guys like Seth Roberts could catch anywhere between 30 to 40 balls. This who knows? They might need another guy, that third receiver after Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore. Well, Christian McCaffrey's number one receiver. After Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, and Curtis Samuel, Seth Roberts could be a guy that probably gets some run there in Carolina. And then the last move I wanted to talk about was the Broncos on Thursday officially released veteran quarterback Joe Flacco. Like I said, Joe Flacco, as we all know, fan favorite in Baltimore, led Baltimore to the magical 2012 run to the Super Bowl, and the writing was kind of on the wall after Lamar kind of caught fire at the second half of the 2018 season, led the Ravens to the first postseason berth since 2014, and that he was going to be released. He wasn't released. He got traded to the Broncos last offseason for a fourth round pick, and like I said, his time in Denver and with the Broncos didn't go as well as planned. Like he ended the year on IR. They didn't throw for a whole lot of yards. They didn't really look too comfortable in that offense. But I think man, it just Joe Flacco, man, that's my guy. He has a special place in my heart. I know he has a special place in the hearts of everybody listening to this podcast who's a Ravens fan, and it's just you kind of hate to see a guy like just a guy that revere so much like that, and wish the best for him. That you thought he was gonna. Me personally, I was a believer in Joe Flacco. I thought he was gonna go to Denver and tear it up. I even wrote an article last the preseason last year about the Broncos being a potential dark horse playoff team. I just thought Joe Flacco was gonna him and Cortland Sutton and the rest of those guys were gonna make some noise. It ended up not being the case. They're going forward with Drew Lock, and Joe Flacco was officially released on Thursday. As far as possible landing spots for Joe Flacco, because he did say that he, at the end of the season that he wants to continue his playing career. I don't want him to be one of those backup guys that kind of just floats around, and just, like, dude, you're a Super Bowl MVP, you made your money, like, you got a bunch of kids. This, if you're not, I mean, like I said, there are no more starting jobs available. The Chargers came out and said rolling with Tyrod, Joe's former backup, and they're not going to looking for nobody. And New England Patriots, I thought was a potential landing spot possibly for Joe, even though I'd hate to see him in that red, white, and indigo color scheme. But they resigned veteran quarterback Brian Hoyer, and they love Jarrett Stidham there. And if they go anywhere, known as cheap as Patriots are, they might just go take a guy in the draft in this role with Stidham and or Hoyer as their top two guys, and help and have the draft dive developed. They've been eyeing guys like Jalen Hurts and and Jake Fromm and Jacob Eason. So they might just go, they might just go to the cheap route. A guy like Joe Flacco, I don't want to see him holding a clipboard somewhere next season. If he's not starting, he just needs to walk off into the sunset. You don't get that last ride like Ray Lewis had. Especially because you're not on the Ravens. But I just, I'd rather see him, walk out on somewhat on top instead of, like I said, he's already in that category of guys whose careers kind of ended because of injuries, even though he began his career as one of the most durable and healthiest dudes in the league. So that's all we have for today's episode. Thanks again for stopping by the Purple Rain Report. Like and subscribe. Spread the word. We're trying to get this a lot more following for this podcast here because I do want to take it to greater heights. Thanks again.